I planned the perfect trip, but he messed everything up. The most chaotic ride of my life. 2:47 in the afternoon, Tuesday. Los Angeles sun hitting my face in a gas station parking lot in Koreatown. And this Nate Coleman guy, 4.2 stars on Roadmate, 21 minutes late. 21. I counted every single minute, because that is what rational people do when they are stuck in a parking lot waiting for a stranger who answered my message with a thumbs up emoji, a yellow thumb. That is it. I kept staring at that yellow thumb on the screen. And I felt a vein pulsing in my forehead that I did not even know existed. The canceled flight, my sister's wedding in 4 days, and my only option to get to Nashville was this rideshare app and this guy. This guy who just parked in front of me with a coffee stain right in the middle of his shirt.
Hey, Sophie, right? Sorry about being late. I was looking for my wallet, and I ended up finding a drawing I made in 2019 that I swore I had lost. Look at it here on my phone. Is that not incredible?
He showed me a photo of some random sketch on his phone, as if I had asked to see it, as if we were friends, as if he was not 21 minutes late. I looked at the drawing, looked at him, looked at the car, back seat, looking like an explosion in a laundromat, and something that looked like a sock, one, singular. And in my head all I could think was, where is the other one? You are 21 minutes late, Nate? Not 15, not 20, 21. I counted because that is what clocks do.
Fair. I accept the scolding. 100% deserved. Shall we go? Hop in, just push that backpack over to the side. It will fit. Think of it like a game of Tetris.
In my head I thought, Tetris. He compared getting into his car to a game of stacking blocks. And honestly, it was a fair comparison. I had to move a backpack, 2 jackets, and a box of colored pencils from the passenger seat before I could even sit down. I adjusted the headrest, pulled the seatbelt, looked around, and bobblehead glued to the windshield. Pine tree air freshener that had clearly given up fighting against the competing smells. Stickers from 3 national parks. And that sock, that lonely sock staring at me from the back seat. Nate, what is that bobblehead glued to the windshield? And please do not tell me it has a name.
That is Steve. He nods his head. Steve has been the official co-pilot of this car since 2020. He has crossed 12 states with me. 12! He does not talk much, but he is loyal. More loyal than a lot of people I know, actually.
I thought to myself, this man gave a name, a life story, and a job title to a piece of plastic glued to the windshield. I looked again at that car and thought, statistically, this car should not be running.
That is the spirit. I like the energy. Let us go.
I was not joking, but he had already started the car, pulled onto the highway, and turned a classic rock station up to full volume before I could even finish my thought. A guitar blasted through the entire car, and then, as if the situation was not enough already, he started singing. Wrong. Very wrong.
I can't get no. That solo is legendary, is it not? Feel that guitar. Feel it.
The word is satisfaction, Nate. Satisfaction. You said satisfaction, as if the song was about fashion. That is not artistic interpretation. That is wrong pronunciation.
Okay, but you got the vibe, did you not? The emotion was there. The pronunciation is just a detail. By the way, are you always like this? Like correcting everything? All the time? Non-stop?
Correct? Yes, always. It is one of my few social qualities, according to my sister. After that, it was 40 minutes on the road. 40 minutes during which I mentally cataloged 17 things wrong with that car. 18 if you count the driver. He drove with one hand on the steering wheel and the other drumming on the dashboard like he was at a concert that only existed in his head. And there I was, looking out the window, trying to survive in silence. In my head I was thinking, these are the best 40 minutes of the trip. Until he decided to open his mouth again.
I am hungry. Seriously, I am absolutely starving. Look at that diner over there. Let us stop real quick. Just 5 little minutes.
Nate, we left 43 minutes ago. 43. You ate before you left, did you not?
Those were 43 intense minutes, Sophie. And that diner right there has the best milkshake on Interstate 10. I read it in a review. A very convincing review.
One review. How many stars did this very convincing review have?
3 out of 5. But the guy who wrote it seemed really honest. There was passion in that text. You could feel that he lived that milkshake.
In my head, I thought, 3 out of 5. The diner sign has 3 burned out letters. I'm seeing a pattern here, and it is not a good pattern. Go ahead, I will stay in the car.
All right, I will be right back. Trust the process.
In my head, I kept repeating that phrase, trying to find some sense in it. Trust the process. He said trust the process while walking into a diner with a 3-star rating and a burned-out sign. I stayed in the car, waiting, staring at Steve on the windshield. Steve nodding his head like he agreed with everything. 7 minutes. 7 minutes later, he came back holding 2 cups like he had won an Olympic trophy, smiling, always, always smiling. I thought to myself, this man smiles more than any human being I have ever met in my entire life.
I got one for you. Strawberry, no discussion, no debate. Nobody orders a milkshake, Sophie. A milkshake happens. It is a force of nature. Take a sip, and then we can argue about meaning.
That makes absolutely no sense. I did not ask for a milkshake. I did not want a milkshake, but I took a sip because it was easier than arguing with someone who thinks a milkshake is a force of nature. And in my head, it was good. It was good. I hated it. I hated that it was good.
So, tell me the truth. Look me in the eyes and tell me what you thought.
The temperature is inadequate, and the consistency suggests excessive use of artificial syrup, but it is acceptable. Just acceptable.
Ha! That was almost a compliment. I am going to treasure this moment forever, Sophie. Forever. Coming from you and acceptable is like winning an award. It is a rare event, extremely rare, like a solar eclipse. I am touched. Seriously, I am touched.
I thought to myself, it was not a compliment, it was a technical evaluation. But he was already back on the road, tapping on the steering wheel, happy as could be. And there I was, drinking the milkshake I did not ask for, in the car that should not even be running, next to a man who named a plastic figurine. In my head I thought, everything according to plan. Obviously.
So tell me, what do you do for a living? Like when you are not counting minutes and evaluating milkshakes, what does Sophie do?
Data engineering. I work with distributed database modeling, building large-scale processing pipelines, and designing real-time data ingestion system architecture using parallel computing frameworks.
I am here. I swear I am here. I am processing. On a scale, not parallel. I understood data and engineering separately. Together, I got completely lost. Can you explain it to me like I am 5 years old?
Basically, I organize information. But it is not like that. Easy is not the same as correct. And I noticed by his face that he had not understood absolutely anything I said in the last 7 minutes. Nothing. The expression was like someone watching a documentary in a language they do not speak. But in my head I thought, he asked. He actually asked. That is more than most people do.
You know what I do when the road gets long? Crazy plates. I have been playing this since I was a kid, Sophie. It works like this. You see a license plate from another state and you make up a story about the driver. Look over there. Texas plate. I will start. That guy is Doug. Doug has a ranch in the middle of nowhere. Doug talks to his cows by name. His favorite is Gertrude. Doug and Gertrude have a complicated relationship because she ran away twice. Twice. He forgave her the first time, the second time hurt more. But Doug does not give up. Doug believes in love.
You just made up an entire soap opera about a man and a cow based on a license plate, with an emotional arc, with conflict, with redemption, based on a license plate.
A soap opera with emotional depth. Doug loves Gertrude. Gertrude is afraid of commitment. It is complex. Now your turn. There. Look over there, Nevada plate. Give me a character. Road rules. Whoever is in the car plays.
I thought to myself, I'm not going to play this. No way. That is not a rule, Nate. That is something you just made up right now. This very second.
And now it is a rule. Come on, Nevada. I am waiting. Give me a Gerald, give me a Brenda, give me anything.
I looked at the plate, looked at the road, looked at the plate again. I took a breath, a deep breath, and in my head I thought, fine, Sophie, one story, one, and that is it. So, with the utmost seriousness, the owner of that vehicle is Gerald. Gerald works in accounting. Gerald is a normal person. Gerald pays his taxes on time. The end.
That was the saddest story I have ever heard in my entire life. Gerald pays taxes? That is his story? It is a funeral, Sophie. A funeral in the form of a narrative. Gerald needs therapy. He needs a hobby. He needs Gertrude in his life.
Gerald is a responsible man. And you want to cross Doug's story with Gerald's? This has become a crossover now?
I just want Gerald to live, Sophie. Let Gerald live. Give Gerald a dog, a dance, a Gertrude, anything. The man pays his taxes and goes to sleep. That is not a life.
I turned to the window. There was something at the corners of my mouth that I was fighting to control. And in my head, I kept thinking, it's not a smile. It is definitely not a smile. It is an involuntary muscular reaction caused by... Fine. It was a smile. But he did not see it, I think. I hope. The sun was going down when we stopped at a gas station past San Bernardino. I grabbed my phone. 4 messages from my sister. Are you on your way? Sophie? Sophie Ashford, answer me. I am going to call Mom. 4 messages. In 3 hours, I typed, situation under control, sent. And in my head I knew it was not under control, not even close. But she did not need to know that. And then Nate came back from the gas pump with that expression. That expression I was already starting to recognize after just a few hours. I thought to myself, that is the face of someone about to deliver bad news, carefully wrapped in a smile.
So, good news and bad news. Good news, the tank is full.
I asked you to start with the bad news, Nate. The bad.
I know, but the good news prepares you emotionally, like a warm-up. So, bad news, I forgot my wallet at the apartment in Los Angeles.
I blinked again, blinked a 3rd time to make sure I was not dreaming. And in my head, all I could think was, he forgot his wallet. He left for a 4-day trip, crossing 8 states without his wallet, without his driver's license, without his cards, without any identification, and he was smiling?
But I have $23 in my pocket, and some coins in the glove compartment. There are some pennies in there that have been piling up since last year. And technically, I have a photo of my identification on my phone, so I am not completely without anything.
A photo of your identification on your phone is not accepted in 37 out of 50 states, according to federal legislation, Nate. I know a lot of things by heart. A lot. For example, I know that I am in a car with a stranger who has no documents, no money, and a single sock on the back seat.
Hey, leave the sock out of this. The sock did not do anything to anyone. The sock is innocent in this story.
I did not respond. I opened my phone and opened the spreadsheet app. In my head, I was thinking numbers, logic, control. The 3 things that Tripp did not have.
Wait. You are making a spreadsheet? Right now? In the middle of a gas station parking lot with the sun going down? Is this real? Is this actually happening?
I am calculating the remaining budget per mile. Average fuel cost per state, a conservative estimate for food, and a 15% margin of error for unexpected expenses, which in your case should be 80%. You forgot your wallet on a 4-day trip, Nate. 80 is generous.
Was that a joke? Because if it really was, that is the first one I have heard from you, and I want to celebrate this moment.
It was not a joke. Someone needs to keep this trip running.
You know what I think, Sophie? I think this trip is going to be way more fun than you planned.
I did not plan for fun, Nate. I planned for survival.
Even better. The best adventures start like that. Nobody tells the story of a trip that went perfectly. The good stories, the best stories are the ones that almost go wrong. Trust me.
In my head, I kept repeating, trust him. The man with no wallet, no money, who sings off-key, eats at diners rated 3 stars and named a plastic figurine. Trust him. I saved the spreadsheet, put the phone away, got in the car, and buckled my seatbelt with the strength of someone preparing for the worst. The sedan pulled back onto the road, Steve bobbing his head on the dashboard, rock playing on the radio, $23 between us and Nashville. And there I was, in the passenger seat, staring at the road. And in my head I kept thinking that he was the most chaotic, most disorganized, most annoying person I had ever met. And that, for some reason, I still could not explain. He had been the first person in a long time who asked me a question about myself, and stayed to hear the answer, even without understanding a single word. But I was not going to think about that right now. Not at all. In my head I kept repeating, I have a spreadsheet to update and 8 states to survive. The rest was just the milkshake kicking in. The GPS stopped working somewhere in the middle of Arizona. It just stopped. The screen froze, made a weird noise, and shut off. And Nate, instead of pulling over and figuring out the problem, just kept driving. He kept going. Nate, the GPS turned off.
I know. He does that sometimes. It is like a little nap. He will come back in a minute.
A A GPS does not take naps, Nate. A GPS is a satellite system that either works or does not work. And this one is not working. Pull over.
Relax, Sophie. I have a great sense of direction. My grandfather used to say that the men in the Coleman family have an internal compass. It is in the blood.
Internal compass. I sat there processing that. The man who forgot his wallet at home has an internal compass. And there I was, unable to do anything while he confidently drove down a road that kept getting narrower, emptier, and more desert. Pure desert. Nate, this road is not on the map. I opened the map on my phone, and this road simply does not exist.
That is because it is a local road. Local roads do not show up on every map. That is charm. That is authenticity.
It is being lost, Nate. That is called being lost.
Lost is a very strong word. I prefer exploring without a defined destination.
And it was exactly at that moment that we saw the sign. An old wooden sign, slightly crooked, handwritten, "Welcome to Cactus Bend. Population 487, probably."
Look, a town. I told you the internal compass works.
And before I could even respond, the car made a noise. A bad noise. A noise that no car should ever make. And then smoke started coming out from under the hood. Smoke.
Okay, that is not normal. That, I will admit, is not normal.
Smoke is not normal? Smoke coming out from under the hood is not normal? Thank you for that analysis, Nate. I feel so much calmer now.
Hey, calm down. Look over there. Right there on the side. There is a repair shop. The internal compass brought us right next to a repair shop. See? Everything works out.
Repair shop. He called that a repair shop. It was a shed with the door wide open, 3 cars that looked like they had not moved since the 90s, and a sign that read Earl's Auto Repair, with one of the letters hanging by a single screw. And from inside the shed came a man. 60-something years old, faded cap, plaid shirt, walking so slowly it looked like slow motion.
Good afternoon, young folks. What a heck of a heat, right? What happened to this car here?
Hey, is everything okay? The car started smoking. Overheated, I think. Do you think you could take a look at it?
Overheating, right? That happens a lot this time of year. I can take a look. But I just finished lunch, and after lunch I need my nap. Without my nap, I do not function. So I would say 2 hours? 2.5 hours?
2 hours?
2.5 hours, dear. The nap is sacred. My wife Dolores always says, Earl, without your nap, you are unbearable. And Dolores is right. 38 years of marriage, and I learned that in the first 6 months.
38 years? That is incredible. What is the secret?
The secret? The nap, young man. And never disagree with Dolores. She says the sky is green. I say it is the most beautiful green I have ever seen.
I stood there, watching the two of them chatting like old friends, and I thought, the car is broken down in the middle of the desert, and he is collecting marriage advice. I took a deep breath and said, Earl, can I take a look at the car while you rest?
Sure you can, dear. The tools are over there in the corner. Make yourself at home.
I lifted the hood. In less than 5 minutes, I identified the problem. Thermostat in the cooling system stuck in the closed position. I grabbed the wrench, loosened the part, cleaned it and put it back. Then I checked the air conditioning. Problem with the relay. I replaced the fuse with a spare part from Earl's workbench. 10 minutes. 2 problems solved. 347 mechanics videos on YouTube during the pandemic. Productive, period.
Wait. You just fixed the car? The entire car? In 10 minutes?
It was just a problem with the thermostat. It is not difficult.
Young man, this girl here knows more about engines than half the mechanics in the county. Where did you learn that, dear?
YouTube. 347 basic automotive mechanics videos.
347. Dolores, did you hear that?
He was talking to Dolores, who was not there. And before I could process that, Nate was already back with Earl, and in 5 minutes I discovered that Dolores's birthday was the following week, and Earl had no idea what to give her as a gift.
38 years of marriage, and you do not know what to give her? Earl, my friend, I am a graphic designer. I can help you. What does Dolores like?
Dolores likes sunflowers, and old photographs, and that Johnny Cash song.
I have an idea. What if I make a drawing? A personalized illustration with sunflowers, with her name. Takes about 20 minutes. My gift to you.
Young man, Dolores is going to cry. Look, about the car, forget the repair. It is on the house. The girl already did almost everything anyway. 0. Nothing. A gift from a friend.
And without meaning to, I thought, he did it. He got a free repair by making a sunflower drawing. This man lives in a parallel universe where everything is solved with charisma and a smile. And the worst part, it works. It works. While he was drawing, I went to the diner across the street. The only diner in town. The door creaked. A woman behind the counter looked at me as if I were the first customer of the week.
Hi, dear. Welcome to Betty's. You are not from here, right? Where are you from? Where are you going? Do you want a slice of pie? It is my mother's recipe, which is my mother's recipe.
7 questions in 10 seconds, and I felt that freeze. That freeze that always happens when someone I do not know wants to chat. And out of nowhere, without thinking, I opened my mouth. Did you know that the chemical composition of a traditional American pie consists of approximately 45% carbohydrates and 30% fat? Silence. Total silence. Betty staring at me thinking inside, why did I say that? Someone asks me a nice question and I answer with chemical composition. And it was at that exact moment that Nate came through the door.
Hey, this diner is amazing. Betty, are you the owner? You know who loves classic diners? Sophie. She was just giving me a whole lesson about the compounds in American pie. She's an expert.
I stood there, frozen, processing. He walked in, noticed the awkward silence, and in 5 seconds transformed my random fact into a compliment to Betty's pie. Without looking at me, without making it seem like a rescue, just covered for me. Natural, as if it were nothing.
Pie expert, what a beautiful thing. 2 slices of apple with cinnamon coming right up. Family recipe, secret for generations.
Betty brought the slices, enormous, covered with cinnamon. I looked at the plate and inside I thought, I am not going to like this. I tasted it. It was good. Again, the same thing. The things I do not want to try on this trip are always good.
So, say it is good. I can tell by your expression.
The pie presents an unexpectedly complex flavor profile with notes of cinnamon and a touch of nutmeg.
She loved it, Betty.
We said goodbye to Earl, who had his eyes shining holding the sunflower drawing. Said goodbye to Betty, who packed extra slices in a box and insisted we take them. The car started without smoke. The air conditioning worked, real cold air. And Nate, as soon as he sat in the seat.
Sophie, you fixed the air. You are a genius. I do not even know how to open the hood, and you solved everything in 10 minutes in the desert.
And there, hearing him say that, I realized something. He gave me credit, immediately. Without hesitating, without trying to take it for himself, just acknowledged it. Simple as that. And I did not know what to do with that. It is basic mechanics, Nate. YouTube. 347 videos.
So, you like the pie, right? You can admit it. Just me, you, and Steve.
I said what I said.
You closed your eyes on the first bite, Sophie. Closed your eyes. Nobody closes their eyes eating something that is just unexpectedly complex.
I did not close my eyes.
You did, and you made a,
Look at the road, Nate.
I'm looking, but you closed your eyes.
Look at the road. I closed my eyes, I really closed my eyes, and made and he saw, and now he will never forget it. I turned to the window, to the desert, to the sun, and tried not to think, but Cactus Bend. 487 people. A mechanic who does not work without a nap. A lady who makes pie for 43 years. And a guy who drew sunflowers and got everything for free. And he covered for me with Betty. Without me asking. Without making it look like charity. Without wanting anything in return. New Mexico was right up ahead. And deep down, in a place I would not admit to anyone. I was curious about what came next. It got dark in New Mexico and we still had nowhere to sleep. Nate's phone had died an hour ago. Mine had 2% battery. And the only thing that showed up on the side of the road was a flickering neon sign. Sunset Ranch Motel. Western themed, vacancies available. Half the letters were blinking. The other half had already given up.
Western themed motel. Sophie, this is perfect. Look at that facade. There is even a decorative wagon at the entrance.
The wagon is missing a wheel, Nate.
That adds charm. It is authenticity. Come on, I'm exhausted.
We walked into the reception. Peeling cowboy wallpaper. A plastic cactus in the corner, and a girl behind the counter chewing gum with the energy of someone who had already given up on the shift 3 hours ago. Good evening, we need 2 rooms?
2 separate rooms. Separate, very separate.
The girl chewed her gum, looked at the computer, chewed again, and said with no emotion. Only 1 room available. The sheriff's suite. Double bed, horse sheets. Take it or leave it, 'cause I close in 15 minutes. I looked at Nate. Nate looked at me, and inside I thought, no, not in a million years.
We will take it.
Nate.
Sophie, it is this room, or sleeping in the car. In the car with no air conditioning, because at night it shuts off by itself. In the New Mexico desert, with Steve for company.
He had a point. I hated that he had a point. We took the key and opened the door to the room. And there, in front of me, was the bed. A double bed with sheets printed with galloping horses. Horses, Nate. Galloping horses. On the wall, a decorative horseshoe. On the lamp, a cowboy silhouette. And in the bathroom, ceramic boots holding the toilet paper rolls.
This is the most beautiful thing I have ever seen in my life.
You sleep on the floor.
Fair, I accept, but I choose the movie. That is the deal.
I thought for half a second and said, okay. Deal done. And that is when I made the mistake. Because Nate Coleman, when he gets the power to choose, uses that power in the worst possible way. He grabbed the remote control, flipped through the channels, and found the cheesiest movie that existed. A romantic comedy from the 90s, with an actor I did not recognize, an actress I did not recognize, and a script that clearly nobody recognized as good.
This one. This is the movie. Look at that synopsis. He was a lonely cowboy. She was a big city veterinarian. Fate brought them together on a ranch. Sophie, it is perfect. It is destiny. We are in a Western motel watching a cowboy movie.
In the first 15 minutes, I stayed quiet. I held out. In the next 20 minutes, I could not take it anymore. I started pointing out every plot hole, every single one. Without mercy. Nate, she is a veterinarian and did not notice the horse is limping. That is visible to the naked eye. And he said he lives alone on the ranch, but who washed that shirt? Nobody who lives alone has a white shirt so spotless. And now they fell in love. They have known each other for 2 days in the movie.
Sophie, stop analyzing and just feel. The movie is not supposed to make sense. It is supposed to make you feel.
Feel what? That the screenwriter did not research anything about horses?
You are impossible.
And he was laughing. Really laughing. Not at me, but with me. Like destroying the script of a bad movie was the best part of his night. And inside, deep down, I was having fun. I was having fun criticizing a cowboy movie lying on a bed with galloping horses in a motel in New Mexico. My life had completely gone off the rails. And then, in the middle of the final scene of the movie, the air conditioner made a noise, shook and died. It just stopped. The room started heating up in minutes. I looked at the unit and thought, I fixed the one in the car. But this one is wall-mounted. It is another system. I would need tools I do not have. 5 minutes later, the room was an oven.
I have an idea. Come on, let us sit outside. Outside the room, there are benches out front.
We went outside and sat on a wooden bench on the porch of the motel. And there, in the middle of nowhere in New Mexico with no artificial light nearby, the sky. The sky was... I stopped thinking about air conditioning, about GPS, about spreadsheets, because that sky was the most beautiful thing I had ever seen. Millions of stars, millions from horizon to horizon.
Wow, is this real? Is all of this real?
That one there is Cassiopeia. It looks like a W in the sky, see? And right next to it is Andromeda. And that brighter one there is not a star, it is Jupiter. And that cluster up there is the Milky Way. The light we are seeing now from some of these stars traveled millions of years to get here. Millions, Nate. Some of these stars do not even exist anymore. We're looking at the past.
We are looking at the past?
Yes. The light takes so long to arrive that when we see it, the star may have already disappeared. It's like a letter that arrived too late. But it is still beautiful. It still matters. There was silence. But it was not one of those weird silences that I do not know how to fill. It was a silent good, comfortable. And I realized that Nate was not touching his phone, was not drumming his fingers, was not singing off key. He was just there, looking, listening. And for some reason I kept talking. My sister she is the one everyone understands. You know that type of person who walks into a room and everyone likes her? Who tells a joke and everyone laughs? Who does not need 347 videos to learn how to talk to someone? That is my sister, and I am the one people tolerate until I am useful. I said that like someone saying the weather forecast, no drama, not asking for pity, because to me it was just a fact, a piece of data, like the distance of Cassiopeia or the chemical composition of a pie.
I left a stable job at a design agency to go freelance. Good salary, health insurance, everything all set. And I left because I felt like I was just filling templates, making pretty things that meant nothing. My family thought I had lost my mind. My dad still sends me job opening links by email to this day. Every Sunday, Sophie. So I am what everyone wants to fix, the family's unfinished project.
I looked at him, and for the first time I did not see the chaos guy, the milkshake guy, the Steve on the windshield guy. I saw someone who also did not fit in a different way from mine, but similar. And I did not know what to say. I never know what to say in these moments. So I stayed there, looking at the sky, and he stayed there too. And it was enough. And then a cat showed up, out of nowhere. A stray cat, orange, skinny, that came walking slowly, looked at me with a face like it was not afraid of anything, and grabbed my sandal. Grabbed my sandal and ran off.
The cat grabbed your sandal. Hot, Sophie. Run.
I got up and went after it. And inside I calculated, average speed of a domestic cat between 48 and 50 kilometers per hour at full sprint against my running speed, which is generously about 12. The math was not in my favor. I ran through the motel porch, turned the corner, and the cat just disappeared. With my sandal, disappeared. And Nate back there, laughing his head off.
Sophie, you were trying to calculate the cat's speed while running? I saw your lips moving.
It was a relevant estimate for the footwear rescue.
You lost a sandal to a cat in New Mexico. This trip is the best thing that has ever happened in my life.
The next morning I woke up first. Nate was sleeping on the floor, wrapped in a horse blanket, with his drawing notebook open beside him, and in the notebook there was a motel napkin with a drawing. I picked it up slowly. And it was me, a cartoon version of me, running after an orange cat with the expression of someone solving an equation and my hair flying to the side. It was funny, it was detailed, it was good, it was really good. And without thinking, I folded the napkin and put it in my pocket. Then I realized what I had done. I thought, why did I keep this? Why am I keeping the drawing of a guy I have known for a day and a half? And the logical answer was, there is no logical answer, so I pretended it had not happened and went to brush my teeth. But the napkin stayed in my pocket. Albuquerque. Finally a real city, with real streets, real buildings, and real cell phone signal. I needed to buy a gift for my sister because the original one had stayed in the lost luggage at the Los Angeles airport. A suitcase that, according to the airline, was in the process of being located. Translation: lost. Completely lost.
There is a mall right up ahead. We stop, you buy the gift real quick, and we get back on the road. Simple.
Simple. It was supposed to be simple. Until I saw it. Across the street, between a laundromat and a tire shop, a storefront that made my entire brain light up. Window display full of action figures, posters of graphic novels. A sign that said Duke's Comics and Collectibles since 1994. I felt my entire body turn toward that store like a compass pointing north. Nate, wait, there. That store, I need to go in. Just 5 minutes.
Comic book store? You like comic books?
5 minutes, Nate? Just 5.
Okay, 5 minutes. I will wait here in the car with Steve.
I went in, and something happened. Something I cannot explain with data or logic. I crossed that door and became another person. Completely another person. You know that Sophie who freezes when someone starts a conversation, who answers with chemical composition of pi, who cannot keep a social dialogue for more than 30 seconds. She stayed outside, because in there it was my territory. In there I was fluent. I went straight to the graphic novels section. And in less than 2 minutes, I was already explaining to the clerk why the 2011 edition of Sandman is superior to the 2019 reprint. The paper quality, the color saturation, the faithfulness to the original artist's line. The clerk agreed with everything. And then, from the aisle next door, a teenager appeared.
Hey, sorry, I heard you talking about Sandman. Have you read the complete saga?
All 75 issues, plus the specials, plus the spin-offs.
Okay, but what about the multiverse theory in the Sandman arc versus the classic DC multiverse? Because I think Neil Gaiman created a completely separate structure that does not connect with the rest of the...
No. Gaiman's structure does connect, but on a mythological level, not a narrative one. Dream exists above the DC multiverse. He is not part of it, he is prior to it. The difference is hierarchical, not dimensional. The endless precede the creation of any universe, which means that the entire multiverse operates within their domain and not the other way around.
But in the Crisis on Infinite Earths arc,
Crisis on Infinite Earths redefines the physical multiverse, not the metaphysical one. Gaiman operates in the metaphysical. They are different layers. It is like comparing the ocean to the sky. Both exist, but one does not contain the other.
Okay. That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense, actually.
I looked at that teenager and he looked at me, and I saw in his eyes the exact moment when he realized he had lost the argument. And inside I felt something I rarely feel in social interactions. Confidence. I was confident. I was in my element. And then the debate shifted to Batman. And specifically to a question that separates the true connoisseurs from the amateurs.
Okay, but who is the best Robin? Because everyone says Dick Grayson, but I think Jason Todd after Red Hood gained a depth that...
Tim Drake. No discussion. Tim Drake is the only Robin who chose to be Robin. Dick Grayson was adopted into the role. Jason Todd was impulsive. Damian Wayne was born into it. But Tim Drake investigated, deduced Batman's identity alone, and introduced himself. He was not chosen. He chose. And that changes everything narratively.
I never thought about it from that angle. Okay, I need to reread some things.
And there, in that graphic novels aisle, in Albuquerque, New Mexico, I won a debate about Robin against a 16-year-old teenager. And it was glorious. Glorious. I did not even notice how much time had passed. I did not even notice that Nate had come into the store.
It has been 40 minutes, Sophie. 40. I came to see if you were alive.
And I turned and saw his face. And it was not the face of someone who was irritated. It was not the face of someone who was bored. It was a face I had not seen on him before. He was looking at me like, I do not know, like someone who discovered something new, like someone who saw something for the first time. He was leaning against the wall, arms crossed, and there was something in his fascination. I do not know how to name it. I am terrible at naming these things.
I have been here for about 10 minutes, Sophie. I heard the entire debate. I did not understand almost anything. But I have never seen you like this.
Like what?
Like, lit up. Like, glowing. You were glowing there in that discussion. You know that, right?
I did not know what to answer. Inside I felt something strange. A kind of warmth that had nothing to do with the New Mexico desert. And before I needed to say anything, he changed the subject.
Well, while you were destroying the boy over there, I found something. Look.
He showed me a print, an artistic illustration made by a local artist, framed with a simple wooden frame. And I recognized it right away. Cassiopeia, the W-shaped constellation. The same one I pointed out to him that night at the motel, sitting on that wooden bench in New Mexico, looking at the sky while talking about stars that no longer existed. I stayed silent. 1 second, 2 seconds, 3. And for anyone who knows me, 3 seconds of silence is a lot. It is an eternity, because my mind never stays silent. There's always data, an analysis, a calculation running. But in those 3 seconds, nothing. Just that illustration in front of me and the realization that he remembered. He remembered. Everything I said that night, the name, the shape, everything.
It is for your sister as a gift. I thought that. I do not know, you talked about that sky with so much feeling that I thought maybe she would like to have a piece of that. Something that is yours, you know? Something that is so you.
I swallowed something that was rising in my throat, and I said, the scale is a little off. Cassiopeia is more tilted at this time of year. But it is beautiful. It is really beautiful.
I already understand that the scale is off, but it is beautiful in Sophie language is like crying with emotion in any other language. I am learning.
And I almost laughed. Almost. Because he was right. It was exactly that. And inside I stayed there, holding that print, trying to process that someone heard me talk about stars in the middle of the night and the next day went and found Cassiopeia in a comic book store in Albuquerque and bought it for my sister. Because it was so me. And then I thought of something and froze. Nate, how much did this cost?
Do not worry about that.
Nate, how much did it cost?
Well, we still have money for the next tank. Probably, if we do not eat too much.
You spent almost all our money on a constellation print. Almost all the money, Nate.
But it was worth it. Look at this art. And your face when you saw it. It was worth every penny.
I wanted to be angry. I really wanted to. But I was holding Cassiopeia in my hands, and he was smiling that way of his, and I simply could not. Inside I thought, this man is impossible. Completely, absolutely impossible. And I put the print away more carefully than I'd put away anything on this entire trip. We went back to the car in silence, a good silence, one of those that does not need filling. I put on my seatbelt. He started the engine. Steve bobbed his head. And after a few miles, without looking at him, I said, Tim Drake?
What?
The best Robin. It is Tim Drake, in case you were wondering.
I definitely was not wondering, but now I know. And I am going to remember this for the rest of my life. Tim Drake, the Robin who chose to be Robin.
He remembered what I said. Word for word. He listened to that entire discussion without understanding anything about comics and remembered the part that mattered. And I turned to the window, looking at the road, and inside, deep down, I thought, when was the last time someone paid this much attention to what I say? And I did not find the answer, because maybe there was not one. We crossed the Texas Panhandle in silence, but it was not one of those awkward silences from the first day. It was another kind, the kind that only exists when two people no longer need to fill the space with words. Nate driving with one hand on the wheel, me looking out the window, Steve bobbing his head, the road straight, flat, infinite, and neither of us feeling the need to speak. I thought to myself, when did this change? When did silence with Nate Coleman stop being uncomfortable? And then we entered Oklahoma, and the first thing we saw was a small town with little flags hanging from one side of the street to the other, booths set up, country music playing loud, and a huge handwritten sign, Meadow Creek Annual Festival, dancing, food, and fun, with 3 exclamation points. 3.
Sophie, look at this. It is a festival. There are little flags, there are booths, is that a mechanical bull? Sophie, we have to stop.
We do not have to stop. We have to get to Nashville.
Nashville is not going anywhere, but this festival is. It is annual, Sophie. If we miss it, only next year. Look there, tortilla eating competition. And there, country dance contest. Country dancing, Sophie.
I looked at his face, eyes shining, a smile of a child on Christmas Day. And inside I knew there was no way to say no, not because I wanted to stop, but because saying no to that face would require a level of coldness that I simply did not have at that moment. So I sighed and said, 30 minutes. 30 minutes, and we get back on the road.
1 hour.
45 minutes. It is my final offer.
Deal.
We got out of the car and walked through the festival. Smell of fried food, live music, children running, people waving at us as if we were from the town, and Nate greeting everyone back as if he really was. Within 5 minutes, he already knew the name of the guy at the lemonade stand, the story of the lady who sold jams, and the nickname of the mayor's dog. And me there by his side, holding my cup, trying not to be noticed by anyone. And then Nate disappeared for about 3 minutes. And when he came back with that expression. That expression that I already knew very well. The expression of someone who did something that I was not gonna like.
So I have a surprise.
I felt a chill down my spine. Literally, a real chill down my spine. What surprise, Nate?
I signed us up for the country dance contest.
Silence. The world stopped, the little flags stopped swaying, the music stopped playing, everything stopped. And inside me a single word formed with the clarity of scientific data. No. Nate, I do not dance. I do not know how to dance. I have never danced. Not alone. Not in my room. Not with the door locked. Never.
That is why it is perfect. There is no expectation. We just go there, have fun, and...
No.
Sophie, we're in the middle of Oklahoma in a town we're never coming back to. Nobody here knows you. Nobody here is gonna judge you. It's just a dance.
And I looked at him. Looked at the stage where couples were lining up. Looked at the crowd that was smiling and clapping. And inside I thought, he's right. Nobody here knows me. Nobody here knows I'm the Sophie who freezes in conversations, who talks about the chemical composition of pie, who doesn't know how to make small talk. Here I'm just someone. And before the rational part of my brain could stop me, I said, if I embarrass myself, this is entirely your fault.
Deal. Let's go.
The music started. Country. Banjo, fiddle, clapping. And I stood in the middle of the stage like a robot that just got turned on and is still loading the system. Nate took my hand, and I started counting. 1, 2, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. If I count the beats, I can do this. It's just math. Rhythm is math. Frequency, interval, pattern, 1, 2, 3.
Sophie, stop counting and just move your body.
I am moving my body within a logical rhythmic structure.
You're marching. You look like a soldier. Loosen your hips.
I don't know how to loosen what was never tight, Nate. He tried to lead me, held my waist, tried to guide, and I resisted, because it made more sense that whoever plans the steps should lead. Statistically.
You're trying to lead. Sophie, I'm the leader.
Statistically, whoever plans the steps should lead. I've already mapped out the sequence mentally. Left, right, turn, left.
This isn't a map. It's a dance.
It was a disaster. A complete, total, absolute disaster. I stepped on his foot 3 times. He stumbled over me twice. I spun the wrong way and almost hit the couple next to us. The music went one way and I went another, like I was hearing a completely different song. And the worst part, I didn't stop. I didn't stop. I don't know why. Something inside me refused to leave that stage. Something that wasn't logical, wasn't rational, wasn't anything I could explain with data. I just kept going, making mistakes, stepping, stumbling, but going. And people started laughing. Not meanly. With affection? With fun? The crowd was clapping, shouting, cheering us on. A lady in the front row yelled, "Go, honey!" and a man in a cowboy hat whistled. And Nate was looking at me in a way I can't describe. It wasn't amusement, it wasn't pity, it was something I didn't have data to catalog. The music ended. We stood there breathless, sweaty, disheveled, and the judge came up on stage to announce the results. 3rd place, a young couple who danced well. 2nd place, Nate and Sophie. 2nd place, we got 2nd place. I looked at Nate in disbelief. He was jumping with his arms in the air like we'd won the world championship. And 1st place went to an elderly couple. Harold and Marge, married for 40 years. They danced like the music had been written for them. Every step synchronized, every look perfectly timed. 40 years and they still looked at each other that way. I stood watching the 2 of them on stage receiving the prize. And for a second, just a second, I felt something I didn't expect. Something without a name and without data. Something that stayed there in my chest for a few moments before I pushed it down and pretended it didn't exist.
The prize is a $50 gas voucher. Sophie, we won gas. Dancing got us gas. I need to make a speech.
Nate, don't make a...
Thank you, Meadow Creek. Thank you all. This victory is dedicated to Steve, our faithful co-pilot, to Gerald, who pays his taxes, to Gertrude, who will one day go back to Doug, and especially to Sophie, who dances like a robot with operating system problems but has more courage than anyone I know.
I looked at him on stage making that ridiculous speech, and everyone laughing and clapping, and inside I thought, technically, we're the first losers. And I said exactly that. Technically, Nate, we're the first losers.
Ha! First losers. I'm putting that on my resume.
Someone took a photo of us, sweaty, disheveled, with that gas voucher in hand. Nate smiling in that impossible way of his. Me looking like I'd just survived a hurricane. He posted it on social media with the caption, "2nd place, never felt so good." And I would normally hate that. Normally I'd ask him to take it down. Normally I'd say, I don't authorize use of my image on social media. But I didn't say anything. And when he wasn't looking, I opened my phone and saved the photo. Saved it on my phone. Sophie, who dances like a robot, and Nate, who signs strangers up for dance contests. Sweaty, disheveled, smiling, both of us smiling. I put my phone away before he saw, and we went back to the car. Arkansas was the next stop. And for the first time this entire trip, I didn't want the road to end. Arkansas. The road through the trees, the sun filtering through the leaves, and something different inside that car. Something I couldn't name. It wasn't the uncomfortable silence of the first day. It wasn't the surprise silence of the desert. It was a silence that had texture, lightness. Nate driving with one hand on the wheel, tapping slowly on the dashboard, and me there, looking out the window, and for the first time this entire trip I wasn't counting the minutes. Wasn't cataloging mistakes, wasn't planning, I was just there. And that scared me more than any broken GPS. The phone rang. My sister's number. I looked at the screen and felt that tightness in my stomach that always appears when she calls, because my sister doesn't call to say hi. My sister calls to investigate. Hi, go ahead. Sophie Ashford, who's the guy in the photo? What photo are you talking about? The photo from the festival. In Oklahoma. You're sweaty, disheveled, and smiling, Sophie. Smiling. I zoomed in on the photo 3 times to be sure. Who is he? What's his name? Where did you meet him? Tell me everything. And I froze. Froze like I always freeze when someone asks me a direct emotional question. Because I didn't know what to say. Did I know what I felt? No. Did I know how to name what was happening between me and Nate? No. Did I know how to explain why I saved that photo on my phone? No. So I did what I always do when I don't understand something. Reduced it to data. It's a shared transportation arrangement. The app is called Roadmate. His rating was 4.2 stars, which statistically indicates an acceptable level of reliability, although the sample of reviews was relatively small for a definitive conclusion. Transportation arrangement. Sophie, you're smiling in the photo with a cute guy at a festival in Oklahoma, and you're describing him to me as a transportation arrangement? I'm laughing, Sophie. I'm laughing so hard. I didn't understand why she was laughing. I described the situation precisely. It was a transportation arrangement. The app was called Roadmate. The rating was 4.2. All true, all correct. Technical. Okay. Transportation arrangement. Is he going to the wedding? Because from that picture, you two look like way more than a rideshare app, little sister. He has his own commitments. We separate before Nashville. It is just a ride, okay? That is all. I hung up, put my phone away. And only then did I notice. Nate was quiet, very quiet. The hand that had been drumming on the dashboard had stopped. The song he had been humming was gone. He was staring straight at the road with an expression I had never seen on him before. It was not anger. It was not irritation. It was something worse. It was silence. Nate Coleman in silence is the most wrong thing there is. I sat there trying to understand what had changed, and deep down, really deep down, I knew. He heard. He heard me say transportation arrangement. He heard me reduce everything that happened over the last few days, the motel, the stars, Cassiopeia, the pie, the dance, the drawing of the cat, the 40 minutes in the comic book store, to an app with a 4.2 rating. Nate, is everything okay?
Yeah, I am just driving.
3 words. Nate answered with 3 words. The man who made an entire speech at an Oklahoma festival, who invented a soap opera about a man and a cow, who named a plastic figurine, answered with 3 words, and I felt something tighten in my chest that I could not catalog. The rest of the drive was in silence, not the good silence from before. Another silence, a silence that weighed heavy, that took up space, that made the car feel smaller. I wanted to say something, opened my mouth twice, and closed it, because I did not know what to say. I know how to talk about constellations, about chemical composition, about thermostats, but I do not know how to talk about this, whatever this is. He pulled the car up in front of a hotel at the entrance to Nashville, a simple hotel, clean, normal, and he turned off the engine.
Well, Nashville, we made it. I mean, almost. This hotel here is about 20 minutes from downtown. You can catch a taxi to the wedding tomorrow.
I looked at him waiting for more, waiting for the joke, the smile, the comment about Steve or about Gerald. But nothing came, and I realized what was happening. He was saying goodbye. You are not going to downtown Nashville?
I have a commitment on the other side of town. It is better if we separate here. It makes more sense logistically.
Logistically. He used the word logistically. He would never use that word. He never used that word in 4 days of traveling. And I understood right there in that passenger seat, that he was giving me back my own language. Transportation arrangement. Logistically. Cold. Technical. Exactly the way I described him on the phone.
It was a good trip, Sophie. Seriously. Good luck at your sister's wedding. She will love the Cassiopeia gift.
He was trying to smile, but it was not his smile. It was an assembled smile, forced, that did not reach his eyes. And I realized right then that I knew Nate Coleman's real smile well enough to know when it was fake. 4 days. In 4 days, I learned to read the smile of a stranger. I wanted to speak, wanted to say something that would fix that moment. But the words did not come. They never come when I need them.
And hey, Sophie, keep watching those mechanic videos. You never know when you will need to save another car in the desert.
It was a joke. He tried to make a joke, and it did not work. It did not work because his voice was different, and because a joke from Nate without that energy, without that stupid sparkle in his eyes, is just a sentence, just words floating in the air. Thank you, Nate, for the ride and for everything. For the ride. I said, for the ride. As if that had been all there was. I grabbed my backpack, grabbed the printout of Cassiopeia, got out of the car and closed the door. He waved through the window, I waved back, and the silver sedan drove away. With Steve on the windshield, with the sock in the back seat, with the national park stickers, and with an empty space in the passenger seat that 4 days ago was just a seat. And now it was something else. I stood there on the sidewalk, holding my backpack, watching the car disappear down the road. And inside I tried to rationalize, tried to turn that tightness in my chest into data, into logic, into something I could put on a spreadsheet and understand. But it did not work. For the first time on the trip, I did not have a number for that. Sometimes the worst thing someone can say is not something cruel. It is something technical. It is reducing a person to a statistic because you do not know how to do it differently. Because no one taught you. I went into the hotel. Simple room. Single bed. Silence. A silence so different from the good silence of the road that it felt like another language. I put my backpack on the bed and started taking things out. And at the bottom of the side pocket, folded carefully, was the napkin. The motel napkin with the drawing. I had kept that thing since New Mexico without realizing it, without deciding. I simply kept it without thinking. I opened the napkin slowly, and there it was, the cartoon version of me running after the orange cat. Hair flying, the expression of someone who is calculating the speed of the cat while running. Every detail, every stroke, the way he drew my eyes was like he saw something there that I did not see, something I did not know existed. I stared at that drawing for a long time, too long for someone who is just a passenger, too long for someone who described him as a transportation arrangement, too long for someone who supposedly does not feel anything. And I thought right there sitting on that hotel bed that I had ruined everything. With the only thing I know how to do well, being precise with the wrong words. I folded the napkin back up, put it on the nightstand next to the printout of Cassiopeia, and I stared at the two together, the sky he remembered and the girl he saw. And there I was, alone in a hotel room in Nashville, not knowing how to fix something that was not a thermostat. The wedding was beautiful. White flowers, candles, live music, everyone smiling. My sister in the dress she chose 8 months ago and tried on 37 times, the groom with shining eyes, the guests emotional, everything perfect, everything exactly as it should be. And there I was, in the middle of all that, functioning on autopilot, programmed smile, short answers, efficient, functional, and completely disconnected inside. My sister opened the Cassiopeia gift in the living room before the ceremony, took it out of the wrapping slowly, looked at the print, looked at me and went silent for about 5 seconds. Then she hugged me so tight, I almost lost my balance. "Sophie, this is the most beautiful thing anyone has ever given me. This is so you. Where did you find this?" "At a comic book store in Albuquerque." I was going to say more, was going to explain that it was at a stop in the middle of the trip, that there was a local artist, that the scale of the constellation was slightly wrong. But what came out was just that. Because if I said more, I would have to talk about who bought it. And I was not ready for that. A comic book store? This is perfect. It is completely perfect. Only you would find a beautiful gift in a comic book store, Sophie. The ceremony happened, the vows, the rings, the kiss, the applause. And there I was, in the second row, clapping along with everyone else, and inside thinking about something else. About another place. On a wooden bench on the porch of a motel in New Mexico, looking at stars with someone I called a transportation arrangement. The party was nice. I danced with my father, greeted relatives I had not seen in years, answered, "I am fine," about 40 times, ate cake, smiled for photos, did everything expected of someone at a wedding, and not once was I really there. My body was in Nashville. My head was somewhere between Oklahoma and Arkansas. At night, in the hotel, I could not sleep. I lay there staring at the ceiling for an hour. Then I sat up in bed. Then I opened my laptop, and I did what I always do when I do not know how to deal with something. I researched, because if I do not understand an emotion, maybe science can understand it for me. 2 a.m, I was there, in the glow of my laptop, typing in the search bar, "How to know if you like someone, scientific signs." I read 3 articles, none conclusive. Tried again, difference between deep friendship and romantic attraction, academic studies. 4 more articles, Vague terminology. Tried one more time. Is it possible to develop real feelings for someone in 4 days? Scientific data. And I found a study that said continuous proximity in new environments accelerates the formation of emotional bonds. I read the entire study, took notes, made a mental summary, and thought, that is it. It is biochemistry. Oxytocin, dopamine, forced proximity. It is just a hormonal reaction to an unusual context. Explainable, catalogable, solved. Except it was not solved. Because no article explained why I kept the napkin. No study justified why I saved that photo on my phone. No scientific data covered the fact that I knew exactly what Nate Coleman's real smile was like versus the fake smile he made in the goodbye. Science was giving me answers that answered nothing. And then someone knocked on the door, 2:30 in the morning. I opened it and it was my sister, in pajamas, hair tied back, no makeup. The happiest bride in the world, standing in the hotel hallway in the middle of the night. I saw the light on under the door. What are you doing awake at this hour on my wedding day, Sophie? I tried to close the laptop, but she had already seen the screen. She looked at the search bar, read what was written, and for the first time in her life, my sister did not laugh at me. Did not make a joke. Did not treat it as something strange. She came in, sat next to me on the bed, and stayed there in silence for about 10 seconds, looking at me. You are researching whether you like him, Sophie? At 2 in the morning? With scientific articles? I am trying to understand an atypical emotional reaction using research methodology. It is different. No, it is not different. It's exactly what I said. You are researching whether you like him. I fell silent. Because she was right. And I did not know how to respond when someone is right about something I had not yet accepted. Sophie, listen. You do not need a scientific study. You do not need data, statistics, articles with peer-reviewed methodology. You already know the answer. You knew when you kept that napkin. You knew when you saved that photo. You knew when you described him as transportation arrangement and felt it was wrong as soon as the words came out. You already know, Sophie. You are just afraid to know. I closed the laptop slowly, and for a few moments I stayed there, looking at my hands on the keyboard, trying to hold everything that was rising, and I could not. For the first time in a long time, I could not hold it. And my sister saw. She saw my eyes fill and she said nothing. She just put her arm over my shoulder and stayed there, quiet, by my side, while I cried without sound in a hotel room in Nashville at 2:30 in the morning. And it was the first time I felt understood by her. Not tolerated, not translated, understood. And meanwhile, on the other side of town, Nate Coleman was in a meeting with a client. I did not know that at the time. I only found out later. But I need to tell this part because it matters. It matters more than I thought. Nate opened the portfolio on the laptop to show the design work. Logos, visual identities, projects for brands. All professional, all competent, and in the middle of the folders, one he did not plan to open, a folder called Road Trip Sketches. He clicked by accident, and there were all the drawings he made during the trip. All of me. Me pointing at stars in New Mexico. Me debating at the comic book store with my arms gesturing. Me dancing like a robot in Oklahoma. Me sleeping in the car with the seatbelt crooked and hair in my face. Drawings he made on napkins, in the corners of the notebook, in the pauses between one road and another. And the client looked at all of that, looked at the professional work, looked at the trip drawings, and said something Nate did not expect. Said that the professional work was good, clean technique, and competent execution, but that the trip drawings had soul, that the others were work, and these were truth. And Nate kept looking at those drawings and realized, there in that meeting with a stranger, that the best things he had created in years were all inspired by someone he had known for 4 days. Someone who dances like a robot, who talks about the chemical composition of pie, and who debates multiverse with teenagers in comic book stores. While I researched the biochemistry of love on a laptop at 2 in the morning, he drew my face for the 10th time in a notebook on the other side of town. Neither of us would consider ourselves romantic. Me, because I think romance is a social construct without sufficient empirical basis. Him, because he thinks romance is something that happens in bad cowboy movies. And even so, there we were. Me with my articles, him with his drawings. Both thinking about the same thing without knowing. I picked up my phone, opened the conversation with him in the app, looked at the screen, the cursor blinking. And I thought about everything I could write. Sorry. You are not a transportation arrangement. I do not know what you are, but it is not that. Thank you for remembering Cassiopeia. The words were all there, formed, ready, and I did not send any. I kept looking at the blinking cursor until the screen went dark by itself. And on the other side of town, Nate did the same thing. Opened the conversation, looked at the cursor, thought about writing, and did not write. 2 phones, 2 cursors blinking. 2 people who do not know how to say what they feel. One because she turns everything into data. The other because he turns everything into a joke. And that night, neither had the courage to be the first. Morning of the wedding, I woke up at 5:42, checklist open on my phone, 23 items, all organized by priority, time, and urgency level. Flowers checked at 6:15, chairs aligned by symmetry at 6:30, playlist verified at 6:45. I was in the mode where I work best, total control. Planning, execution, 0 space to feel anything. Because if I stopped to feel, I would remember a silver sedan driving away with a bobblehead bouncing on the windshield. And I could not remember that now. Not today. The ceremony was at 4 in the afternoon. At 3:57, everything was perfect. My sister in the dress, beautiful in a way I have no vocabulary to describe. The guests in the right places, the flowers symmetrical, the music playing, and me there in the corner, with my completed checklist and a tightness in my chest I was pretending did not exist. And then something happened at the entrance, someone speaking loudly, the security guard arguing with a person. I heard the voice before I saw, and when I heard it, everything inside me stopped.
I am the backup photographer. Here is my credential. I know it looks like it was made in paint, but I swear it is legitimate. Sort of legitimate. Look, I have a camera.
I turned slowly, and there, at the entrance of the hall, was Nate Coleman, with a camera hanging from his neck that he clearly did not know how to use, with a credential that definitely was made in paint, with that shirt that was probably the most formal he had, and with his smile, the real smile, not the fake smile from the goodbye, the real smile that reaches the eyes and lights everything around. I froze, processed, and could not compute. Sophie. Who is that guy arguing with the security guard? Wait, is it the guy from the photo? Is it the transportation arrangement? I did not answer. I was too busy trying to remember how to breathe. He saw me from across the hall, stopped arguing with the security guard, and came walking toward me with that walk of his, that walk of someone who thinks the whole world is a friendly place.
Hey, Sophie. Can I have a minute with you? Just 1 minute. Then I promise I will go back to being the most unqualified backup photographer in the history of weddings.
We went out to the hallway, and he opened the sketchbook and started to show, one by one, all the drawings he made during the trip. Me pointing at stars in New Mexico with the whole sky drawn around. Me debating at the comic book store with my arms gesturing and my eyes lit. Me sleeping in the car with the seatbelt crooked and hair in my face. And the last one, a new drawing. The 2 of us at the Oklahoma Festival, dancing. Me with the face of someone calculating the steps, him with the face of someone who had never been so happy. And below, in beautiful handwriting, second place never felt so good.
Sophie, I drove 6 hours to be here. 6. And I do not know how to use this camera. And this credential I really made in paint, in 20 minutes, at a gas station. And I will probably be kicked out of here in about 10 minutes. But I needed to tell you something.
I stood there, holding the sketchbook, looking at him, and inside everything was racing. Everything was loud. Everything was too intense to fit in a data point or a spreadsheet.
You do not need to prove anything to anyone, Sophie. To anyone. I like the Sophie who debates about Robin as if the world depended on it, who calculates the speed of street cats while running after them, who talks about stars as if they were personal friends she introduces to others, who fixes the air conditioner in the desert in 10 minutes and then pretends it is not incredible. I liked all of that, and I do not care if you call me transportation arrangement, ride, 4.2 stars. You can call me whatever you want. I just want you to know that for me, you were never just a passenger.
I looked at him. And everything I researched at 2 in the morning, all the articles, all the studies, all the data about biochemistry and bond formation, all disappeared. All became small. Because no scientific study in the world explains what it is to look at someone and feel that the whole world makes more sense when that person is around. I tried to speak, got stuck, breathed, tried again, and what came out was, I researched extensively, read 14 articles, 3 meta-analyses, and 1 longitudinal study from Cambridge, and the data suggests that I like your company in a statistically significant way, with very low margin of error, practically zero.
That is the most romantic thing anyone has ever said to me in my entire life, Sophie. My entire life.
I can send you the chart later if you want.
I want the chart. I want the whole study. I want the slide presentation. I want everything.
And he was laughing, and I was almost laughing. And we were there in the hallway of a wedding venue in Nashville, with a sketchbook between us and a fake credential made in paint, and I thought that was the most absurd moment of my entire life. And then he stopped laughing and looked at me in a different way, in a quiet way, in a way that made the whole hallway become small, and spoke softly.
Sophie, I'm going to do something now. And if the margin of error is wrong, you can calculate the exact speed of the slap I'm going to get.
And he kissed me, right there, in the hallway. With the camera, he did not know how to use hitting between us. With the sketchbook still in my hand, with the sound of the music from my sister's wedding coming through the door, and I kissed back, without calculating, without analyzing, without thinking about data, margin of error, probability. For the first time in my life, I did something without thinking first. And it was like closing my eyes on the first piece of Betty's pie. But multiplied by all the stars I showed him that night in New Mexico. And when we pulled apart, I opened my eyes and he was smiling. The real smile. The smile I learned to recognize in 4 days of road. And I spoke because I needed to say something or I would explode. Your credential is crooked.
I know. I made it in paint in 20 minutes.
The wedding was beautiful. Nate spent the whole time taking terrible photos with the camera he did not know how to use. My sister exchanged vows, danced with the groom, cut the cake, and at the bouquet toss, she turned her back and threw. And I, by pure muscle reflex, dodged like someone dodging a ball in physical education class. And the bouquet flew straight to Nate, who caught it with both hands and raised it in the air like a trophy. Did you know the bouquet tradition comes from 15th century France and has no statistical correlation with future marriages? The probability of...
Sophie.
What?
Be quiet.
And I did, smiling. For the first time without hiding the smile, without turning to the window, without pretending it was an involuntary muscle reaction, just smiling, in front of him, in front of everyone. The next day, we were in the car, the silver sedan. Steve bobbing his head on the windshield, the sock still in the back seat, the GPS still not working. Me in the passenger seat, him at the wheel. And the napkin with the cat drawing in my pocket next to the phone with the festival photo saved. Where are we going now?
I do not know. We will figure it out on the way.
I opened my mouth to calculate a route, to suggest an efficient road, to open the map and plan each stop by mile. And closed it. Closed my mouth and looked at the road. That road that 4 days ago was just asphalt between Los Angeles and Nashville. And now was something else. It was apple pie in Cactus Bend. It was Cassiopeia in the New Mexico sky. It was second place in Oklahoma. It was a sunflower drawing, a debate about Robin, a thief cat, and a kiss in a hallway with a credential made in paint. I smiled, and the car entered the road, without GPS, without destination, without spreadsheet, just Steve, the sun and the most chaotic, disorganized, and impossible person I had ever met in my life. The person who heard me talk about stars and remembered each one. And for the first time, I did not need to know where the road was going. I only needed to know who was by my side.